listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome to the show tonight. Welcome to the show. We're going to talk tonight about breaking free, about the journey from learned helplessness to like life ownership, personal ownership. And, you know, this whole thing is about creating your ultimate life. And last week we had a fun guest, and we've got some cool ones coming up in the next couple of weeks. And so to set the stage for that, we are going to talk about this idea of learned helplessness and breaking free from that, because we live in a world where, well, listen, you know how even though you're successful and maybe people say you're awesome, sometimes you still feel scared, small, or like, maybe you don't even really matter. I'll bet some days are still overwhelming and maybe there's no real joy. Fear seems to run the show. Procrastination and self-sabotage right behind. Maybe you feel empty, like you're not really doing what matters. Or like screaming at the sky, hey, what's wrong with me? Or maybe you secretly believe that you are never going to create the money or the impact that you really deserve and yearn for. So what do? Well, you read books, you buy programs, you go to workshops, and you make more promises to yourself and your business, and you bust your butt, and it never seems like it's enough. Well, you end up feeling frustrated and questioning your value, and maybe you even want to quit. Well, you know what? The main problem is we've been taught practically from the cradle that we're not really enough. Bad childhood experiences, grades, friends, betrayals, trauma, abuse, failures, hidden struggles, jobs, and more drive home this pain. You end up feeling like you're never going to cut it. And there's this invisible barrier that stops every climb. Your inner critic is the loudest voice in your choir. Maybe you drink the poison that says you're only as good as the opinions of others. And the old worn out advice to grind harder and take massive action is just hollow. You end up resigned and fearful and secretly afraid that empty dreams, resentment, oblivion, and a bit of guilt is all you get. Well, we know where that road goes. That road, that soul-sucking treadmill ends up leading us to empty mediocrity and frustration, depression, ruined relationships, addictions, personal and business meltdowns, or worse, if we let it run. Maybe there seems to be no way out. You see others who win, and somewhere inside, you know it should be different, but it never ends. Well, imagine for a minute if you knew exactly what to do to completely change the game, to eliminate all the fears that you have, and you obliterate the doubt. Every shout of your inner chorus cheers you on. You keep every goal, every commitment without fail. You discover amazing tools and incredible power that you already have and you're not using. Just imagine for a minute the growth in your health, wealth, relationships, happiness, and your self-image as you master all that stuff and create everything you want. Now, that's the transition when you go from learned helplessness to fierce life ownership. Because there are tools, there is a path, there is a process, there is a way to get from wherever you are right now, however stuck or disadvantaged or dissed or busted you might think you are right now. There's a path. And I use this funny background today with all these crazy colors and stuff because sometimes life feels like that. You don't know which way to go, and every different turn is a dead end. But it's not true. It's not permanent. Let's put it that way. It might be true for your life right now. You might feel that kind of fear and stuff's running the show for you. I certainly meet a lot of people who have that either overtly or they have it secretly and they don't want to talk about it. And maybe because I'm a coach and maybe because I invite conversation, and maybe because they're hoping for help, I hear a lot of that kind of story and discussion. And my whole work, everything I'm about, is to help people walk the road that I've walked, which is from that place of brokenness, learned helplessness, victim mindset, mediocrity. That's all I can get. I'm too busy, all that crap, to a place of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And that's the kind of life that I live right now, and I love it. And it's not exclusive, and there's never going to run out, and there's enough for everybody. Isn't that the fun part? All right, so let's talk about the world where we live right now. Wouldn't you agree that most of the world, the spirit, the energy in the world is governed by fear, greed, and lies? People are afraid. Prices are going to go up. They're going to lose their job. You're going to lose your job. Your relationship's going to fail, whatever it is. Fear is just a huge piece of the governance of our life right now. And greed is another thing. So you look at wars that are going on. There's threats that this country is going to attack that country. And there's actual wars going on in at least two big places right now, still going on in the Middle East and still going on in Eastern Europe. And expansionism and greed and hatred and lies and fear, all of those are the fuel. Somebody wronged somebody, and there needs to be a retribution. Look at the destruction that does. Now, I don't know about you, but you're probably not in a war zone right now, not an actual one. You might be in a war zone in your life. I mean, that description I just talked about how things feel sometimes, that feels exactly like a war zone. No question. So here's what I want to observe for you, because today we're going to talk about not only what exists today, because that's obvious. Every time you turn the news on or anything else, it's fear-mongering, somebody hating somebody else, people dissing them, and then not only doing that, but telling everybody that disagrees with them that they suck, they're stupid, and we hate them on every side of every argument. That's sad, and all it does is amp up that feeling of uncertainty, fear, hatred, greed, lies, and so forth. So I may sound like a Pollyanna nutcase when I say it doesn't have to be that way. Well, you can agree with me intellectually and say, no, it doesn't, but it's never going to change. Well, I don't have the power to change governments by myself. I don't even have the power to change my city by myself, or at least not to start with, or at least not today. What I do have, and you have power to do, is to change yourself. That might sound too simple or too small, but you remember that quote from Steve Jobs. He talks about, here's to the crazy ones and the round pegs and the square holes. And he ends up with the crazy people, the ones that think they can change the world, that are crazy enough to think that, are the ones who do. So before you dismiss your own capability, your own possibility, and the impact you have, let's think about that. Because just a few years ago, I was, as you know, a drug addict and broken in all kinds of ways, failed in multiple respects. And that has changed by direct and consistent action, not by any luck, but by direct and consistent action, to where this year, my goal and what I will do is reach 300 million people with the message. It's not just reach them, hey, reach out and touch someone. That was an old TV commercial. I'm going to reach you and everyone in that 300 million with the message that you really are capable. You have special power and you're not using it. And so your choice is to sit around and keep doing that, not doing it, as it were, or to take ownership of your life. Now, the first invitation is, if anything I've said to you either pisses you off or resonates, let's talk. There's a URL on the top of the screen, KellanFluckigerMedia.com. I invite you to go there, use the contact form, and let's talk. Because if it resonates and you say, you know what, I'm done settling for mediocrity, If you're saying that to yourself, I'm finished. I'm done settling for mediocrity. I just like a little guidance on how to get that going the fastest way possible. Well, that's my area of expertise, and I'd love to talk. The other invitation is I love people that have those stories. I was just talking to somebody today who has an amazing story of that kind of direction change. Not very long ago, they were heading in a destructive, negative way, and they decided, like I did now 18 years ago, but for them it was much more recent, fist-thumping decision. I'm done with that. I'm going in a new direction, and I'm going to take control of this. So that's what we're doing today. We're taking back control of your life. So I'm going to talk about maybe 9 or 10 different things you can do right now, not someday out there. You can do right now to reclaim ownership of your life. Now, I don't have the magic pill or button to change elections and overthrow governments and fix the weather and land a pot of gold in your living room. And if you have a story that the only thing that's going to make you happy is some externality, then you're going to be waiting a long time, because the universe is going to unfold like it does. It's our opportunity to make something out of it. And I get more excited about that every day I breathe. So here's the first thing you can do. You can identify and reject false narratives or the lies that you hear. Now, as soon as I say that, especially in the hotbed narrative that's going on around the world in Europe and the US about everybody else is lying and my view is right, that's bullshit. And in the first degree, and here's why. Your opinion is as good as mine, and mine's as good as yours. The false narrative I'm talking about isn't what somebody else believes is wrong, and I got to go prove it and scream about it. It is, am I letting someone else's nonsense determine how I feel? Now, if someone makes a post on social or says something at a dinner party or at a family gathering, and I allow it to make me furious and I punch them out or I rip them a new one on, Twitter or X or whatever, if I do that, then I've handed control of my life and my energy to them. I've allowed you to piss me off, or you've allowed me to piss you off. That's a choice. That is a conscious choice. And here's the consequences. I may rage because you piss me off, or you may rage. It doesn't usually change anything. It doesn't fix anything. And it leaves everybody in a negative place. Oh, okay. That's a real positive thing. That's a real world builder. So that's the first thing. Reject internal false negatives or false narratives. I don't control you. There's nothing that makes my thought any better than yours or yours any better than mine. It's our own opinions. And when we latch onto that, all we do is live in misery. It's like that old thing. If I let you make me mad, I'm just drinking poison and waiting for you to suffer. That's nonsense. And I know it was originally said about holding a grudge, but it's the same thing. If I let racial, cultural, political, religious, or other differences control my life, then I've handed over my happiness to somebody else or some other group. That is the first actionable step. And here's how you implement that. I have a little framework called notice and choose. Notice and choose. And here's how it works. The minute you feel helpless, angry, and often anger comes from believing something that's not true. And that doesn't mean whatever anybody says is true. The thing that we believe that is not true is, I can't do anything about it. Yeah, you can. You can choose not to be angry. You can choose to allow others to believe and be any way they want to. Now, I'm not talking about physical harm or any of that kind of stuff, but almost all of the rage that we see floating around politically, culturally, and religiously, and all the rest, is because we're trying to convince somebody else that they're right, they're wrong, and we're right. No, they're right, and so are you. You get to have and own your own thinking, and you can be happy when you do. And you can allow that same privilege to others, and then everyone can be in a state of, I'm okay, I'm happy. All right, so identify and reject false narratives. Another place that falsehoods come from is from our stories of past experiences. I was buried in this. So my upbringing left me with severe depression. And what I took from that was I'm not good enough and I never will be. So I interpreted every event that happened in my life as a validation of a truth that I held, that I sucked and I'd never be good enough. I never could do anything. That was true even though I had C-suite positions, made a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. I believed I'm not good enough. And that, you know what that belief did? It made me wreck 3 careers. I did things that trashed them because I believed in my own heart that I wasn't good enough. I didn't have to do that. And I finally got the help I needed and changed that whole narrative. And I don't do that anymore. But that was a false narrative that was running my life. So where are false narratives? Things that aren't really true running your life. Commit to truth seeking. That doesn't mean listen to certain radio or television stations that reinforce your external beliefs. I'm talking about real eternal truth. And the only place you're going to find that is in meditation and silence and divine connection. Eternal truth is eternal truth. It's way bigger than we are. It is the framing of the stars and the heavens and the gravity and everything else. So ground yourself in that. And if you think, Kellan, you're full of crap, I don't know how to do that, and you're full of shit anyway, that's just telling me you haven't done the practice. If you would take time, if you will, take time to learn, to be still, and to connect with the divine, however you define that, you will learn eternal truth because it will be poured into you. The consequence of that is peace. It is love. It is gentle. It is a gentle approach toward life. And that doesn't mean don't work hard and create big stuff. It doesn't mean that. It means an approach toward life that doesn't have to be violent in spirit. It means you can be, create, and act in love, even when you have to be firm, clear, and powerful. So be a truth seeker from eternal sources of truth. And don't spend any time trying to evangelize or cause anyone else to live and agree with and focus and accept your brand, your version of truth. Allow it to be sufficient for yourself. Surround yourself with like-minded people, people who live in peace, tolerance, and who are diligent and creators. Can you imagine with me for just a minute, if you go back to what I said in the beginning, can you imagine if you and I, just the two of us, lived with complete peace and maximizing our gifts and talents, and every day went at life with a joyful, creative attitude? And then you and me, why we infected 2 other people, and they infected 2 other people. And it would take less than a month before we have 1 million people who are living from peace, purpose, and power. Oh, gee, your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. And I can already hear you. Well, that's not possible. Nonsense. It is possible. You may not want to do the work. You may not want to participate, but it is possible. And I know it because I'm living there. I'm living there, and it's more fun than I've ever had in my whole life. The next thing I want to talk about is this idea. I mentioned learned helplessness way in the beginning, and learned is the operative word. When we are babies, barely born, we're completely helpless. Somebody better take care of us pretty quick. Food, diapers, that kind of stuff, or pretty soon we're going to die, right? So we are helpless. And fiercely, if you've ever been with a kid and the terrible twos and everything else, we fiercely claw our independence. No, I want to do it. I want to stand up. I want to feed myself. We learn that independence. It's wired into us. And then somewhere, and we keep doing that. We want to do things for ourselves, create for ourselves, draw our own pictures, march to our own drummer, listen to our own music, all of that. We fiercely claim our independence. And then somewhere down the road, we give that up. We voluntarily and willingly give up our uniqueness, our individuality, to conform, to be forced or to choose to live in some box that somebody somewhere defined. And mindlessly and stupidly, we become lemmings and accept the notion that this certain amount of money is good, or this piece of clothing is good, or that politician or idea is evil. And it isn't because we actually believe it. We just wander into the Kool-Aid and drink it without any critical thinking on our own. Well, what happens then is we learn to be helpless. We learn to be at the mercy of the weather, the political weather, the religious weather. And I use weather as the thing because it changes all the time, right? We learn to be helpless, and we hand over our sovereignty to all that stuff. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't follow a discipline that you believe in, but it should be because you have tested and believe, and you have discovered for yourself. So when someone challenges you, you don't resort to name calling and slingshot hurling. You're able to talk about why you actually believe a thing, why you're committed to that. I'll give you some examples from my own life. One of the statements in my PTAC, my personal truth and commitment document, and if you don't know what that is, you need to read this book. It's the most powerful words in the world. It shakes the universe and sets the sun on fire. Living with purpose and power, I created a document that defines who I am. And one of those things in there says, I am my word. I speak only truth. I do what I say. I am who I seem, with simplicity, transparency, and integrity. Now, nobody gave those words to me, and nobody insisted that. And I didn't write that down for anybody's pleasure. I wrote it down because I want to be that. When I look in the mirror, when I listen to every conversation I have, I don't want to have to pretend away anything I said. I don't want to have to parse words. I say what I mean, and I believe it for a reason. And here's the reason for that particular one. I lived a lot of my life as a liar, especially during times of addiction and failed relationships and all kinds of stuff. And so I understand deeply and resonantly what terrible consequences come from that life. And so when I started working on myself to say, who do I really want to be? One of the things that just screamed out at me is, I want to never have to think about what I say. I want to never have to remember again what I told so-and-so. Mark Twain said, tell the truth, there's less to remember. In spades, I took absolute ownership. And the idea that, well, I shouldn't tell somebody this, or, well, situational ethics, nonsense. Truth is truth, facts are facts. Now I live in the joyous position where I never have to even think about it. I am my word. Wow, what liberation. And so that is me doing what I talked about as the name of the episode. I'm done with this learned helplessness and this mediocrity. I'm living that way. Now, I'm not saying that to say, yay, Kellan, nor am I telling you should. What I'm saying is, if you find yourself angry at the world, angry at your circumstances, angry at society or at God or at the government or at the weather, almost always that comes from this feeling of, I have no control, and we rage against having no control. We rage against that, sometimes to the point of violence or terrible actions. And the truth is, you have all control. I don't, and neither do you, but I'll use me. I don't have to be angry no matter what you do. I don't have to hate no matter what you do. I can choose to love no matter what you do. And you might think I'm nuts. Go ahead. I love you anyway, and what I'm saying is true anyway. And not trying to convince you, what I'm sharing with you is taking that kind of control puts you and me in a place of peace. Your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. When I'm full of anger, when I'm full of bitterness and blame, I'm not happy. I'm full of anger, bitterness, and blame. And you know what's funny? Not always, but most of the time, the person, people, or entity against which I hold that anger, bitterness, and blame, they don't even know it. And so they're not suffering any consequence. And if I create a sign and march up and down the street to express my anger, bitterness, or blame, nothing changes for them. They know it or don't know it. If I want to act within the bounds of rule and law and vote and get somebody else in, that's fine. That's my prerogative, and I should, and so should you, if you want to change something. But I don't have to live in misery even 1 minute, and neither do you. That idea that I can't be happy because so-and-so and such and that's going on and that's going on, that is a fundamental untruth in the religion of learned helplessness. And you know what? Some people cling to that religion of learned helplessness. Because I can't wave a wand or speak an incantation and make the world the way I want it, I'm raging and I'm helpless. Well, on its face, that whole idea is ridiculous, because if we all tried to do that, there would be an infinite number of conflicting things and it wouldn't work anyway. But us not being able to do that doesn't make me not happy. Excuse me. I can choose to be happy, and I do, with exactly what I have. And at the same time, I can be building more, and I am. So let's say that again. I can choose to be happy with exactly what I have, and at the same time be building more. So let's look at my 300 million. I can be happy with however many millions I've reached right now, and I'm delighted, I'm delirious, and I'm building to 300 million. Now, if you are stuck in this learned helplessness thing, and if that's been your habit up to now, to blame others and to feel helpless, that's okay. That's a habit you've created, and you don't need to stay there. So let's talk about how to get out of there. Number one, remember that past failures, they're just feedback. They're not an indictment of your character. Another thing to do is take micro actions, take small actions. We have this thing in our society that says, take massive action. You know what? That's great. And usually it doesn't work out like we want, and then we're discouraged. Instead, take some action in the direction of whatever you're trying to create, whatever happiness, purpose, prosperity, and joy you've got your eye on, and take a small step in that direction and create success, because success breeds success. Failure breeds discouragement. So it's way better to have a small degree of success than a massive failure that discourages you, because success breeds enthusiasm, energy, and continued action. Well, we know where that goes. That goes higher up on the ladder. That goes closer to the mountain. That goes more toward whatever it is you want. A better business, more money, a better relationship, more health. It does. It builds that and gives it to you. There's another thing that I do every morning, and that is I declare my PTAC, which has several statements about who I am. I gave you one of them. I am my word. Another one I have is I am love. Pouring over your soul like warm sunshine to create miracles in the moment. Now, I happen to know that love is the power that holds the universe together. It creates, it draws forward, it unifies, all of that is in the power of love. And I am not pretending to be perfect. So when I say I am love, pouring over your soul like warm sunshine to create miracles in the moment, I am declaring that every day. And I do it every morning, but I also do it several times in the day. And I have a long set of statements. And again, if you want to see what they are, so you can create your own, it's not because I'm doing it right. It works for me. Read that book, Living with Purpose and Power. But here's the thing. When I remind myself that I've decided that I am my word or I am love, I act different. I feel different. I squirm with happiness and excitement rather than bristle with indignity. All right. Here is another test and action to get out of the victim mindset. And we talked a little bit about learned helplessness. We're going to talk a little bit about victim mindset. Victim mindset is the idea that everything happens to me. All this bad stuff. I never get this, Instead of, this is again, notice and choose. Listen to your language. Because if I speak in terms of I never, I won't, I can't, that carries an energy. And if I speak in terms of I choose, I get to, I'm this, I'm doing that, that's what I have to do instead of, I gotta do this. Hafta, H-A-F-T-A is a poison word. I get to is an energy pill. Try it and you'll see. Another thing that I experience, so much so that I wrote a book about it, is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a choice. It is a choice to dump the power of past events. It's a choice to no longer allow things in the past, no matter what they are, to have energy in the present. If I carry hatred or resentment for somebody, as long as I do, maybe they know it and maybe they don't, I am chained. If I carry shame or guilt toward myself because I made some mistakes, I need to do whatever I can to fix it. And after that, I need to love you and me. If I need to change my behaviors and my attitudes, then I do that too. So fix it, fix what you can, change who you are, and then go add good to the world. That is such a powerful place. And it eliminates this idea that you're a victim, because you're not. You may have been born in a tough circumstance. You may have had your house burned down in the paradise or the fires in California. Or I just talked to a guy today who, because of one hurricane and another windstorm in Florida, lost his house. 4 feet of water in his house. Entire house is done. Got to tear it down and start over. I didn't hear one word of victim to him. He was acknowledging that happened and that he's going to go build some stuff. I have another friend who was in the fire in California, lost her house. Everything burned completely to the ground. His choice, I'm going to build it again. Well, he could just be mad, but what does that create? Well, I'll tell you what it creates. Learned helplessness and victim mindset. You're not going to create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy dwelling, reveling, swimming in a victim mindset. Never happen. So the next thing I want to talk about is something I call addiction to mediocrity. I don't know about you, but I used to live with the idea that, okay, this is all I get. This is as good as it gets. Well, okay. What if that's true? And what if it's joyfully true? What if this moment right now is the best it can possibly be? Now, you might rebel against that and say, no, I can think of 52 ways that it's better. If I sit and torture myself about what might be, all that happens is I prevent myself from enjoying what is. So I'm going to have a miserable time with what is because I'm busy worrying about what I wanted. What if I decided to enjoy what is and then ask a question, how can I create something new? How can I take this current circumstance, whatever it is, whether it's what I wanted or not, how can I take that and create something magic? That's what I mean when I say I am love pouring over your soul like warm sunshine to create miracles in the moment. Love creates miracles. I've never seen hate create a miracle. I've never seen fear create a miracle, anger create a miracle. Yeah, sometimes we act out of hate or anger and do things, but it doesn't create that feeling of joy and creation and love and uplift. That never comes out of those emotions that are way down the, the resonance scale. So try it. What would happen if you entered every conversation just today with absolute love, whether you knew that person or not, recognizing them as a fellow traveler, a divine being, a person that's got exactly the same fears and worries that you and I do? And instead of either being indifferent or negative, be uplifting, be a beacon of light, be a vessel of love, be a conduit of power. Why? Because you can. Your ultimate life is never going to come from being a beacon of darkness, a vessel of hate, and a vacuum of energy. Never going to happen. Beacon of light, vessel of love, conduit of power allows you to take fierce ownership and get out of the learned helplessness poison. Now, here's another tool, another very practical tool. Have you defined specifically what success is? Sometimes you say, okay, when I have $1 billion or $1 million or some number in the bank, then I'll be happy. That is the silliest thing I've ever said, and I have. But it's silly because that money sitting in the bank doesn't do anything. The happy is me. I can be happy while I'm working on that. I can be happy with $10 in the bank. I can be happy with 1,000. I can be happy with an idea for a project I'm excitedly working on. I can be happy because I'm here talking to you. Amazing, astounding, glorious, fabulous people. And I am happy. I love doing it and I love encouraging you because I know who you are. You're a divine being. You came from the same place I did, and you got gifts and talents that are waiting to explode. And the only question I have often when I talk to people is, why aren't you doing what you dream? Why are you settling for this mediocrity crap? And it's not even, it's funny because I'll ask people, are you doing really what you want to do? No. Well, a little bit. Why not? I don't have time. And when we dive into calendars and schedules and choices, it's not true. I was just talking to somebody and they know, they've done a lot of personal development work. And the thought they expressed was, I know this, I just have trouble doing it. And knowing and doing, you and I, we know that's two completely different things. I'll give you a funny but sad example. In 2009 or 10, I think, I started hearing about Bitcoin. I started seeing advertisements and things about Bitcoin, about buying video cards and outfitting a computer to mine Bitcoin. I thought about it and I thought, I think I should do that. Guess what? I didn't. Now, in that day, Bitcoin was a penny, a dime. If I had done that, Bitcoin was just yet a couple of days ago, $120,000 a coin. So I would have multiplied by my investment by $1 million. But I didn't do what I could do. Now, and that's a funny story. I could be made $1 zillion on Bitcoin. I have a friend who actually did that, and he does have $1 zillion. Okay, good for him. It's wonderful, spectacular, and I'm excited for him. And I can spend time today. So the funny part is I thought I should, I didn't, and now I'm thinking, wow, I should have done that. And I can spend today bashing myself over the head. I can spend today saying, there'll never be another chance like that again. Never in the universe, it's over. Or I can say, wow, I missed that. Lesson learned, listen to your intuition. Lesson learned, listen to others that are talking about it. Lesson learned. And, what can I create here? Listen to your intuition and what can I create? Those are energizing and uplifting thoughts. And what I'm doing is creating a positive, creative experience for myself right now, no matter what's going on in the elections and legislature and protest marches and tariffs and all the rest of the crap. No matter what's going on out there, it's not affecting me. Because I'm choosing to say, wow, listen to your intuition and what can I create here? And then I can see the news and see, oh, wow, they're doing that. Okay, cool. And I choose not to let it affect me because I don't live in learned helplessness. I don't live with an addiction to mediocrity. I don't live with a victim mindset. And the purpose of today's episode is to share this with you because I used to hate things going on around me, feel completely powerless, helpless, angry at the world, angry at others, angry at my upbringing, angry at habits and addictions, and angry and blaming. I lived in that place, not for days, not for weeks, not for months, not for years, for decades. And finally, I said in 2007, when I'm 52, this sucks. I'm done. And I've spent the last 17 years, because I'm 69, I'll be 70 this year, exploring the very questions, what can I create here? And you know what I've discovered? Anything I want. Hear that. Anything I want. I create joy every day. I'm also married to joy, and that's wonderful. But I create happiness every day. I create excitement. I said a little while ago, I'm just started a group of 8 people that I'm going to help write books. That is so much fun. I get to help them identify, delve into their life stories, figure out what they have to share that's valuable. This is not talking about some whiny memoir blaming things. It's about mining your life for value for you and for others. And I get to be part of that, for them to mine their lives and tell their stories and then use their own experience to serve. You know what that's part of? Your ultimate life. Purpose, prosperity, and joy. Not always, but 90-something% of the time, our purpose, the thing that drives us, the deep, deep thing that drives us, comes from our life experience. Some either good thing, mostly trauma or negative thing we've experienced gives us the yearning to make a difference in a particular way. And that becomes our purpose. The question isn't, do you have one? You have one if you want one. Your life experience has provided that. It is in there. The question is, do you have the courage to do anything with it? When I live in victim mindset and learned helplessness, the pilings on of all the noise in the world is so much weight, I can't do anything. If I take fierce ownership of my life and live in love and choice to create, I can create anything. Excuse me, I've learned that the hard way later in life. But it doesn't matter because I don't care where you are now. It's never too late. I didn't start writing until I was 52. I've now written 20 books. I'm writing number 21 with this group of 8 people that I'm shepherding through this author process. What a fun thing. What a joy. I get to help 8 people right now tell the story and create wealth and impact. Because you don't just write a book, you create a course, you create a coaching program, you create a workshop, you create a venue to speak or teach or share what you have learned in a way that benefits others. And when you do that, why then people will pay you because you've got something valuable. The story that you don't is another victim mindset. The story that your voice doesn't matter is another victim mindset. The story that your life isn't interesting is learned helplessness. The truth is you haven't done the investigation to find your power. That's one of the most fun things that I do. And this is the second invitation. If you would like to find your deepest purpose, the thing that will get you out of bed every morning and motivate the daylights out of you, excite you, and help you move forward, and be a vehicle for you to make cash, make a living, we should talk. KellanFluckigerMedia.com, use the contact form. Let's chat about it because I've never had a conversation where we don't find, doesn't even take very long, 20, 30 minutes, where we find the experiences in your life that motivate you and would motivate you. And it becomes clear what you could do to serve and therefore create impact and money. And that's the purpose, your ultimate life, a life of purpose, prosperity in all forms, relationships and money and everything else, and absolute joy because you're adding good to the world. You're fulfilling your deepest purpose and meaning. All right. So let's talk about something else. The shift that I'm talking about here is fear is one of the big drivers. The opposite of fear is love. The opposite of fear isn't hate. Fear and love are polar opposites. Fear destroys. It is a destructive influence. It disintegrates things. It breaks them apart. It ruins relationships. It destroys countries. Love gathers, attracts, and heals. I did not used to know that. I now live that. So if you'd like to talk more about that, get a hold of me. Forgiveness is a huge part of it, because as long as I carried guilt and shame and anger toward myself or others, I couldn't do much. And the choice about which path you walk through life is yours. I can walk the path of revenge, retribution, negativity, and anger, or I can walk the path of sharing, love, lifting, and blessing. And that never at any time means you're a doormat and you get taken advantage of. I'm not talking about any of that crap. So don't hear that. Self-love is the ultimate spirituality. If you want to honor your life and your creator, love yourself, take care of yourself, take fierce ownership of your life. If I give up that ownership and I live in victim mindset, victimhood, that all this stuff's happening to me, I'm dishonoring my creator. I'm ignoring the gifts and talents that I have, and I'm leaving them undeveloped and unused. Why would we do that? I'm not. I, for one, won't. So here's some questions you can ask yourself if you want to. These are things you can do to change this mindset from fear to love. You can ask, who can I serve today? Now, what meetings do I have? I'm going to be late. No. Who can I serve today? And go at each part of your day, maybe at least 3 times or 4 times in a day, and then every hour. In every hour, who can I lift and bless today? Is it a smile? Is it a kind word? Is it noticing something I didn't notice? Is it sending a text of love and kindness out of the blue? It is whatever you say it is, but I can make you a promise, a sacred promise. And that is, if you do that for a month, your attitude will change. You will be more filled with love, and you'll feel better about yourself and about the world. Just simple messages of love. Take the effort and time to do it instead of focusing on everything that's wrong. That's a choice. It's a choice of directional energy. If I focus on what is negative, that's what I see. If I focus on giving and sharing love, then I feel better. And I've done some good in the world. Another way to get rid of fear, and I'm going to expand on what I just said, is service. It is to make a choice to serve someone, even someone that you don't know. Now, heaven knows there's plenty of opportunity, floods and fires and hurricanes and community needs and all kinds of stuff. Some of the most fun that we've had is every year we go around and help with the food bank drive and pass out bags and go collect them. And, little things like that in your community and church. You feel good. And fear takes a step back. Negativity takes a step back. Ownership of your life takes a step forward. So here's what I want to make you. I want to make you a couple of promises. A fact is you're the owner of your life, not the victim. A fact is you can create your happiness or your misery. It's your choice. Another fact is you may have had a habit of creating misery or being in mediocrity. You can change that today, right here, right now. The first step is to pick your direction. Eliminate excuses. Excuses are just poison. We don't even believe our own excuses. We say them for, to say them out loud or to convince somebody else, but we don't believe in excuse. So own your choices. Choose to live in love. Choose to share love. Choose to demonstrate the ownership of your life by refusing to allow your neighbor, your lover, your news channel, your boss, your customers, your employer, or family or anyone else to own your emotions, to own your life. If you do just that thing, I refuse to hand ownership of my emotions and my mood and my attitude to anyone else. I'm the sovereign. I own my life. Now, these are just a few ideas of what you can do to take control of your life starting today. The key is make the commitment, make the change. If you want help, I've written books on it, and my whole life is dedicated to you, to help you learn how to take ownership, to eliminate fear, learn helplessness and victimhood from your life, and live instead with purpose, prosperity, and joy, and just revel in your ultimate life.
You're listening to Your Ultimate Life with Kellan Fluckiger, only on LA Talk Radio.